In hi-fi, one unit with a huge price tag is hardly ever the solution to have really good sound in your living room. The components need to be matching to each other. They have to be like dancing partners that work together very fine, will deliver a show that will leave you speechless, whereas dancing partners where you can feel that they don't communicate with each other, they don't dance well with each other. Yeah, you will always see that, and it's the same in a hi-fi system. You need components that match to each other. Very recently I reviewed 3 different amplifiers. One was a Vincent, the other one was a Heat, and the third one was an Atoll. The 3 amplifiers I have reviewed in my last videos are all different players in this field of the audio industry, and they have very different design philosophies, they have very different build philosophies, and the very different design philosophy results in audible differences. It results in a presentation of music that is different if we compare them to each other. But that doesn't mean necessarily that the one is so much better than the other. It's just different. But it's not only the amplifiers that present music in a different way. It's also us humans who perceive music in a very, very different way. I can emphasize that, I can outline that very much with the woman in the house. The whole idea for this video actually started out when me and the woman of the house were sitting on the couch and listening to some of our, favorite artists, favorite songs in the evening, sitting there. And we do that. We enjoy that a lot. And sometimes we even have notes, a piece of paper where we take actual notes on how we perceive certain songs, certain passages in certain songs, like what stands out, what pops up. And it's very interesting how 2 people sitting next to each other, listening to the same song with the same system in the same room at the same time, and then we compare notes and we find different words on these notes. And this points out to me how individual this experience is, how subjective listening to music actually is for each and one of us. It is very hard to have an objective description of sound and of music. Of course, you can describe the very obvious and bland sounds, like if there is a boomy bass and it's just way too much. That's easy to describe and everybody will point that out. But the actual individual feeling, how does music make you feel? That is a very individual matter, and it's hard to make this objective. Objectively we can measure, and people out there do that. There's a lot of reviewers, there's homepages, there's a lot of people out there, and all the manufacturers and developers, they measure their unit. You can measure your DAC, you can measure your amplifier, you have to measure your speaker if you want to build one. That is an objective way of analyzing a hi-fi unit, and usually if a unit measures very well, it's a good indication it should sound also quite well. So, but still, the subjective feeling, how do I perceive music and what does it do with me, that is individual, that is subjective, and that is very different from each and one of us. We all have different ears. What counts for me most is how music makes me feel. Do I enjoy listening to music? Do I get goosebumps? Do I close my eyes sitting on the couch and I just feel transported onto a different planet? This is the experience I want to have when I listen to music, and with my reviews I will try to describe if any given system that I am reviewing has done this for me. And for that, it is not only one unit that will achieve that, it is the whole setup. I can underline that with an example that I have very often here, sitting on my couch with the woman of the house when we listen to music. Look, my emotional triggers when I listen to music are a lot in the field of the dynamic of the music. How much dynamic range do I have in any given musical piece, that is something that triggers me, that gets me going, the whole dynamic range and how precise are the beats and how much offbeat do I get there. So this is something that gets me going. The woman of the house is emotionally triggered by a different thing. She enjoys clarity very much. Clarity above all other aspects of music. So you can imagine when we listen to the same song with the same system, sometimes the end result, if we like it or not, is quite different. And a situation that appears quite often is we listen to a song that we both like, and I'm asking the woman of the house, how did you perceive that song? And her answer is, it feels like there is a veil in front of the music, there's a curtain in front of the speaker, or it feels like I am at a live concert and I'm not actually in the audience. I just went to the bathroom and I'm still standing around the corner. This is how it sounds. I exchanged some cablings in the same systems. I only changed the cables, and then the woman of the house is sitting there and telling me, oh yeah, now it sounds clear. The difference for me sometimes is, yes, I can hear it, but it's a nuance. It's a nuance that is, for me, not as important as it is for her, because I'm looking more for the dynamic boost of a music. So you see, the perception of music triggering emotions is individual and is different. So this is a follow-up video to the 3 reviews that I made about the Heat Thesis Gamma power amplifier, the Atoll IN300 integrated amplifier, and the Vincent SV237 integrated amplifier. And all these 3 amplifiers triggered different emotions when I listened to music. For example, the Vincent had this glorifying mid-range with which any song with dominant vocals in them made me feel very much like I can see the singer standing in my living room singing for me, and I was surrounded by music. I liked that. The Heat had this precision in the timing of the beat, so whenever I listened to any kind of percussion music or electronic music or music that had a lot of drive and rhythm in their songs, for example, the Dead South, I really like this band. With the Heat, fantastic. If I compare the 3 amplifiers in terms of how much have I actually listened to them, how much time were they connected to my speakers and I listened to music with them, I have to think a little bit about that, but I think the Vincent was probably most in use, followed by the Heat, and then followed by the Atoll. And when I prepared for this video, I had to think a little bit why that was the case. And I came up with the following conclusion, or idea of a conclusion. The Vincent and the Heat, they're both kind of specialists in one particular topic. The Heat does all these rhythms and all this pacing, rhythm and timing properties very, very well. The Vincent with the tube has this holographic gloriness, less of a precision, so it does that very, very well. The Atoll is more of a generalist, but it looks like I actually pick specialist amplifiers more often than I do pick amplifiers who are generalists. In all these thoughts that I had, trying to evaluate how often I used which amplifier, which kind of automatically gives them a ranking, right? But actually that's not the point, because it's not a 1, 2, 3 and this is the best and good and not so good, because they're just different. And I also had to go into myself and think about, so when did you actually use the Atoll? And then I realized I used the Atoll for one specific genre, and I did that almost subconsciously. I also sometimes like listening to music from the 80s. I'm born in the mid-70s, so the mid-80s, the late 80s, that was my youth, you know, that was how I grew up. So it's kind of music that is in my ears and in my brain. It's just hard burned into my brain, and some of the songs of the 80s are fantastic. I love them. There's so much power in them, and there's so much joy in them. And this is when I pulled out the Atoll, because this is where the Atoll did a fantastic job. there is maybe one last point that I want to make with this video here, because another observation that I have found out about myself, maybe it's true for you as well, maybe think about it, a big factor of sound quality is my mood. In which mood am I? If I am really up for listening to music, and I'm even looking, I've been out and about somewhere and I'm coming home, and I've been already on the way home, I've been thinking about, oh my God, I want to listen to this song I didn't listen to that song for a very long time, and I'm really eager in turning it up, and then I just turn it on in my system, I pump up the volume, and I love it. I enjoy it very much. And I'm not even critical listening at the moment, I'm just loving it. And talking about the mood takes me to the last point of this video, which is rather a conversation with you. And that is, I have to remind myself as well, sometimes, especially when you start doing reviews, because you do a lot of critical listening, that I want to enjoy music. That is the most important part. I will never forget the first HiFi system that I bought. I think I'm going to make a review about it one day. Yeah, maybe I will. But I was 16 years old, you know, it was my first earned money, and I went out there in one of these hi-fi shops and I bought this big thing, and oh my God, I loved it. I loved listening to music on that system. In hindsight, if I would listen to that system today, I believe the quality would be, oh my. But I didn't care at the time. I loved it. And I did the most important thing. I enjoyed music.